Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm actually 2 minutes early, so maybe you haven't joined yet. But welcome, welcome, welcome to our live session. Last week, it took about 5 to 7 minutes for it to queue up. So today I actually joined a little early, so I'm about 2 minutes early. So I'll just sit tight for a couple minutes, and we'll wait for everyone to start joining us at 9:30. Good morning. Good morning. We see a couple people join in. Got Zachary and ASD 456414. All right, I don't know what that is, but that's a cool name, right? I actually wanted to name my kid 738, but my wife was like, no, we're not doing anything super geeky weird here, right? So I love always people's code names. So welcome, welcome, welcome. As I was saying last week, it didn't work right away. It took about 5 minutes to queue up. So I didn't actually join until about 9:35. So today I'm like, I'm going to give it a couple minutes. And of course it works. So I'm early. So welcome. Since you guys are early, you get to ask questions, right? As you remember last time, as people start joining, it gets a little wild on the Q&A. So Zach or ASD, if you guys got some questions, remember, anything goes. The purpose of this live is I do my podcast each week where I basically do one-way transmission where I speak to you. And now we're going to come weekly lives to be able to address or answer any questions that you might have or anything that I can help you with. And remember, we're all about being world class. So anything goes. You want to talk about fitness, you want to talk about health, you want to talk about personal, you want to talk about any of those things. We are ready to go. Ben, welcome. Welcome. We have everybody joining us now. As I was saying, Ben, to Zach and a few other folks on the line, you guys get first dibs, right? You guys get first dibs here. Oh, from the PAL. Oh, welcome. I always love having international. So Shashil, what time is it in the PAL there? I'm trying to think. I think you're ahead of us, right? So is it 8 or 9 o'clock? All right, we got good. We got some questions coming in. Awesome. That's what I love to hear. So we'll start with ASD. I'm a huge fan of your talks. Thank you. I try. I really try. Sometimes I get done and I'm like, I don't know if that was one of my best ones, but hey, we keep going each week. Hirachi, excellent. And I'm aspiring to be a Ciso. If you could touch on this topic, awesome. So when I hear Ciso, to me, there's two components. One is you're offering Ciso services, so you need to have that strategic business mindset. And two, you're an entrepreneur, which is awesome, right? So you're looking to start your own business. So my advice would be is if you have a current job, can you flip them to a Ciso client? Because it's so much better to start a Ciso business with a couple of clients. So I would say if you have a current client, can you flip them? Can you say, listen, I really want to start my own business. I really want to do Ciso. I'd continue to like to work from you. Can we just switch from a full-time role to a Ciso role? If that's not possible, of course, if you want to make sure that your competes, your NDAs and all that, you're not breaching any of that. But the next one is, are there any current customers where you're at that you have that you can use as clients? If not, start reaching out to folks that have businesses that you'd like to work for and offer them a free 1-month trial. Say, listen, I'm starting a new Ciso business. I'll give you 1 month for free. And I ask two things in return. One, can I use you as a recommendation since I'm giving you this for free? right? Because you want to have some referrals and testimonials. So that's a great way. And then second, when you're ready for vCISO services, if I do a great job for free, will you then use us in the future? And I know it sounds crazy in the beginning to start doing work for free, but doing free work, building up clients, building up trust, and building up referrals is really the best way to be able to then start getting paid clients and start growing that business. How should an organization determine the level of risk they are comfortable with, and how should we define it? Excellent question. Now, first thing is you need to figure out, which is pretty easy when you look at the decisions that are being made at the executive level, what is the current level of risk? What is their current level of risk? Do they even think about risk? Or is it pretty much, as long as there's a business justification, we'll do it? And I know a lot of our clients come in, and that's where they're at, where basically, if it increases profitability, it increases revenue, it increases customers, it increases visibility, they're going to do it regardless of the security impact. So in that case, we basically say, listen, the reality of where you are today is you accept all risk. You accept all risks, no matter how bad they are, no matter what the impact could be, and you're basically just blind to that risk. Now, we've gotten away with it a little bit, but based on the current threat environment that we work in, it's going to come back to bite you. But I just wanted you to be aware that that's the current environment you're in. I suggest that we actually put some risk levels in place, that anything that could put us out of business, we don't do. Anything that would cost us more than X amount, depending on the size of the business, $5 million, we don't do. I suggest that we start putting some of those limits in place and start asking risk-based questions when we make a decision. But that's where I would typically start. Just raise awareness of where they're at today. Now, what you need to recognize is, unfortunately, there's some organizations that are going to ignore or accept all risk until they have a major breach. Right? What's the number one reason somebody installs a home alarm system? Because they or a friend get robbed. Right? That's the unfortunate reality. So in a lot of cases, you might have to accept that the company you're at is not going to listen to you until they have a major issue. And then you have to decide whether you do or don't want to stay at that organization. But what I would recommend is not only determine and document what the current posture is, but start training everyone to ask multiple questions. The question that most folks ask, most companies ask, most executives ask is, what is the value or benefit of doing this? And that's what drives business decisions. What is the value or benefit? Increased revenue, increased profitability. Let's do it. What you want to start doing is saying, okay, let's start asking a second question. What is the risk and exposure? And then just decide, is the risk worth the value or benefit? And in the beginning, you're going to find that they probably will say yes, yes, yes. But over time, as you continue this practice and you have more breaches and more issues, you're going to start seeing the tide change a little bit. Where they're going to go, you know something? The value and benefit in this case isn't that great, and it's really not worth the risk or exposure. So let's start doing it. The one thing I would say, it looks like Slip Angle asked that question, is patience. You're not going to change your culture in an hour, a day, or a week. It's going to take months or years, but you slowly want to start putting these in place. We have, all right, world-class engineer checking in from Atlanta. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Hopefully we'll get you excited about being a world-class CISO too, right? So it's great to be world-class, right? As long as you're world-class, I'm happy. I just want to get whatever your dreams are. If your dream is to basically to be world-class security engineer, it's still good to understand how CISOs think and operate, because world-class security engineers need to support and work for world-class CISOs. So it's still important to have that knowledge. I just want to support you in whatever your goals are. We have another question. I want to know how to use cybersecurity as a business enabler like you speak about in your videos? It's simple. Come up with solutions that have cybersecurity embedded, that increase functionality, increase revenue, and increase profitability. And I know for many of us, it sounds bizarre because we've been trained on phrases. I talk about one of my, I think it's going to air in 2 or 3 weeks, but I talked about how we have these phrases that we grow up with. Like one of the ones that drives me nuts is when people are like, under promise and over deliver. That's stupid. Why would you undersell your service? If you're competing against somebody else, wouldn't you oversell? Well, why would you undersell? That's a stupid strategy. So my philosophy is overpromise, overdeliver. Right? Tell them what you're going to do and then give them even more than what you said. And I bring this up because one of the other phrases that I hear security people say all the time, and I call them out on it, is, Eric, you know the rule. Functionality, performance, security. Right? Pick one. Right? If you have security, you can't have performance or security. If you have security, you can't have performance. I'm like, first of all, that ain't a rule. That's fictional advice. And 2, that's galactically stupid. Like, who said that? Right? So let's stop creating these limiting beliefs. I, all the time for our clients, and it's one of the reasons they work with us, is we'll go in and take an existing solution and we'll add security and make it better. We'll give even better feature sets and we'll increase the customer satisfaction level because now the customer has a better user experience in how we implemented the security and are happier because they now know their data and information is protected. Remember, we live in a day and age where cybersecurity is something that people want. They don't want it as an inconvenience, but they want to know that their data is protected. They want to know that their data is secure. So that's what we really talk about when we're saying that we need to make it a business enabler. Let's change the paradigm that if you have security, you have to limit functionality and it has to be a roadblock, to we can actually make the product better and increase user experience by putting proper security in place. Blazin said, you woke up late. Dude, I've already hit the gym, got in a workout, and recorded 2 videos. You got to get now. I don't know where you're at, so maybe if you're like in Australia, it's probably 3 a.m. That's there. So that's awesome. Okay, 6 p.m. in Nepal. So Sheila, thanks for letting me know that. Yeah, so we have people coming in from all over. So this is awesome. All right, so remember, this is all about answering your questions. I go in and do my weekly podcast where it's one way I get to talk to you. You don't get to ask me questions. So we're going to jump on each week for 20, 30 minutes and just sort of meet some of you, get to know you a little better, answer any questions you have, and just sort of interact a little bit. I tell you, this is, you can ask my team. This is the funnest part. We started last week. And afterwards, I went up to my social media person. I'm like, can we do this every day? I love it. Right. And she was mad at me because she's like, Eric, you got to limit it to like 20 minutes so people want to come back each week. And I think I went for like 15 minutes last time, but she's amazing. And she keeps me on track, right? To make sure that I behave, or at least tries to make sure that I behave. So excellent. Let's look at some more questions. Do you think it's the same chance to get an entry cybersecurity job in the private or public sector, or is one more likely or not really? So, great question. Typically in public sector, which is government, most of the time, the cybersecurity jobs, not all, most of the time, they do require clearances. And clearances do take time. Depending on which level of clearance, it could take anywhere from, and also based on your background and level of partying you did in college, right, could also dictate how long it's taking. But assuming that you're not from a crime family and was a drug dealer in college, right? That those could change the numbers a little bit. But typically for like a secret or base level clearance, that could take a month or two. And for a TS, I mean, that could take a year or two. So it's really a longer commitment with those. Now, I will tell you that some government contractors, because there's such a big need, they will hire you and basically let you do training for 6 or 7 months until you get your clearance. That's where there's such a big need. But let me just explain the difference. Working for the government, you're going to get paid less, but there's a lot more opportunity for learning and growth. Like, it's not uncommon if you work for the government for your first couple of years for them to send you to training 3 to 6 months out of the year. So 50% of your time is learning, growing. I know when I worked at the government, I loved it because I had a multi-million-dollar lab, right, that I could experiment with and work with and basically learn how to hack and how security operated and functioned on it. I didn't get paid that much, right? But it's sort of the short-term investment. So you get paid less for 5 to 10 years, but then when you come out, the amount of experience and knowledge you have far accelerates where you would be. Now, in private sector, in the commercial arena, you're going to get more money, but they're going to work you harder. You're probably not going to get as much training. If you do training, it's going to probably be evenings and weekends, and there's probably going to be longer days and weekends in place. So you really sort of have to weigh the two options. And the big thing I will really tell you is don't look at it short term. Look at it over a 20-year period. Because with me, I'll use me as an example. I worked for the government for 10 years, around 10 years, and I got paid a lot less than I would have. However, I came out with so much more knowledge and experience because the amount of training they invested in me, that what I'm making today, I do not believe I would be here if I was in commercial from the beginning, because I would not have learned all that knowledge. So just look at over a 15 to 20 year period. Yes, you're going to get less money now, but what is going to be your earning potential in 20 years by building that foundation? What is going to be your long-term earning potential? Because everyone today is so focused, especially with social media, on right getting their Lamborghini at 23. Now, I'll tell you this. Everyone that I know that in their 50s and 60s are multi-millionaire and billionaires, not one of them had a Lamborghini in their 20s. And once again, not picking on them, not saying, I challenge some of you, but the other thing I will tell you is everybody that I know that had or claimed they had Lamborghinis in their 20s no longer have it in their 40s, right? So it's one of those, what are you playing for? You're playing for the cool car for 5 years, or you're paying for the cool car for 30 years. So you just got to weigh out those different options that are there. Of course, I'm biased. I think it's great to work in public sector, work for the government. I believe it's great to serve whatever country you're in. I know we have, I think I counted so far 7 different countries represented here, but I'm a big fan of helping and supporting your country, whether it's military or whether it's civilian. But I'm a big fan of that. Plus, you get a huge learning accelerator by doing that. Now, at the end of the day, in cybersecurity, you can't go wrong. Right? Either one, you're going to be in good shape or good position. But I would just sort of make sure you're not looking at the salary only to make a decision. Look at the 10 or 15 years down the road. Dr. Cole, I've heard you say before, a business needs to decide which part of the CIA is most important to them. How do you guide them in determining that? A lot of that is just asking open-ended questions. So ask your executive, what would be the worst thing that could happen to our company from a cyber attack perspective? What type of cyber attack, if it happened, would be devastating to our organization? Or another variant of it is, what are the things that you worry about or you're concerned about when it comes to cybersecurity? And then their answer will basically tell you. So if they basically come back and say, listen, we're terrified that our operations will be taken down for 3 weeks and we won't be able to produce or manufacture our product, right? That's clearly an availability. We're concerned that critical information might be disclosed or put out in the public. That's, of course, confidentiality. So you ask those questions. The other way, look at the business you're in. What is the reason you're making money? What is the primary driver behind the revenue that your organization makes? If you're looking at critical infrastructure makes money when oil is flowing and electricity is going across the wires. Yes, there's some information that they would prefer not to be public, but ultimately their systems need to be up and running and available. Right? So that would be one there. If you're looking in financial sector, one of the bigger drivers, that's really depending on the type of business, that's going to be a tie between confidentiality and integrity, because you want the information accurate, but you also want to make sure that information is not inadvertently disclosed. So those would really be my two recommendations. Is one is to be able to go in and look at the type of business, and two, just ask generic questions. Just ask open-ended questions and see what you come back with. Zach has a question. When using the metric prevented attacks, what are you looking at when getting that info? IPSAV, what classifies as a prevented attack? Recommendations. Awesome. So what I typically do there, and once again, we're keeping this really simple because the idea of putting metrics in place is to raise awareness with executives. Most executives are not aware of the problems or how bad cybersecurity is. As I joke, when I worked at the CIA, I loved working there, but it was a hard organization to work for. And the reason is this: when we do great things and we do amazing stuff, nobody knows about it. The only time we're in the news is when we do something we're not supposed to or a mistake is made. And that's the same thing with cybersecurity. When you're doing your job and you're stopping attacks and securing the organization and keeping it safe, you get no credit. Nobody says awesome job. Nobody praises you when you're knocking it out of the park. But as soon as you do one little thing wrong, right, one attack gets in, one system gets compromised, then boom, all of a sudden you're screwed up, you made a mistake, and you're the worst person on the planet, right? So cyber is one of those humbling areas where you only get credit when things go wrong, not when they go right. So what we're trying to do is raise awareness. So prevented attacks is a great awareness tool. My favorite way for doing that is drop packets in a firewall. And the reason why I like using that, Zach, is because almost every company has firewalls, and almost everyone has a firewall in place. And yes, could you argue that, hey, some of these are minor versus major? Yeah, but we're just doing high level here. We're just trying to do general high level. So anytime your firewall drops a packet, that was an attempted attack, because if it wasn't, it would have been allowed through, right? The reason why your firewall is dropping packets is because it's bad. So don't overthink this. I sometimes have brilliant world-class security engineers that are like, oh no, Eric. I'm like, stop. You're overthinking this. All we're trying to do is raise an awareness level with the executives. So we want to look at drop packets in the firewall, basically plot it out, and basically tell the execs, hey, we've had 20,000 attempted attacks that we successfully prevented this week or this month. So you can use IPS or others, but your firewall drop packets is really the easiest way to go. So Blazin, go with what my mentor said and serve the people in cybersecurity in my own unique way, and the money will come later. Yes. So once again, a lot of people claim credit for this quote. So I don't know who really came up with it, But it's a great quote. If you go in and help other people solve their problems, they'll help you solve your problems. So I always go in with our client, and I always say I don't like sales, but I shouldn't say that because I love sales and what drives my business, and I'm actually quite good at it. But I do sales different than most other folks. How do most people do sales? They go in and focus on what they want. I'm selling virtual Ciso services, and I want you to hire me, and I do this, and this. The way I do sales is I'll ask you, what is your biggest problem that you're having today? If I could solve that problem for you, what would that be worth to you? Notice completely different. I'm approaching it on wanting to understand what they need, understand what their biggest problem or issue is. Now, it might not align with what I'm offering, and I go in, and this is one thing that I do differently than most, and I'll recommend somebody else. If our company doesn't do the service that they do, I will recommend somebody else, and here's why. I want them to view me as the problem solver. I want them to view me as, okay, Eric might not be able to solve my problem, but if I go to him, he'll find somebody who can. And here's why it's so brilliant. Because if you get known that way and everyone calls you when they have problems, eventually they're going to have a problem that you can solve. They're going to have a problem that's aligned with your business, and then you get the business. So when you're focusing on growing businesses, building businesses, starting up a vCISO, focus on helping customers solve problems and get known with as many customers as you can as solving a problem. And then when they come to you, there'll eventually be a problem that's aligned with that service that you offer. What is the common salary range for a world-class CISO? That's a great question. It's really across the board in terms of what kind of company you work for and how large. Now, I will tell you, average starting off, typically going to be around 200K. So I know some smaller companies, I've seen some of our clients, they're giving us 175, 180, but you can get them up to 200. So I would say sort of entry levels around 200 to 250. Average is going to be sort of 500. That's total compensation. But I know world-class CISOs that are in the organization. They're at the exec level. They're what I call one of the core five. So you have CEO, COO, CFO, Chief Legal Counsel, and CISO. Like, security is that important. They're in the core upper echelon. That core upper echelon of execs at most large companies, you're getting a base between 600 to 700K, and you're getting a bonus anywhere from 800 to 2 mil based on how well the company produces. So when you're talking sort of true world-class, that's well-known world-class, you could easily be within the couple mil range. And my recommendation is, if you're truly world-class, that's where you really want to start your own business, where you essentially have 7 or 8 clients that are paying you 30 to 40K a month retainer. So just do the math on that. What if you had 10 clients that you visit once a quarter? So you're doing 10 trips a quarter, which isn't that much, about every other week or so you're traveling, and 10 of them are paying you 40K a month retainer. That's over 5 million with minimal overhead. Right? So when you start running those types of numbers, they start to work out very well in your favor. Other thing, look at, it's not out yet, but the SEC is looking at, for any publicly traded company, that they actually have to have a CISO person on their board of directors. That's going to be huge. That right there could be a multi-million dollar business. Do you realize with top level boards, those board members get paid 50 to 75K a meeting, and they typically do 4 meetings a year. So these top-notch folks that sit on these boards, one board, they're making $250,000 a year. Some of them sit on 5, 6, 7 boards, right? Start doing the math on that, right? It starts adding up. So there's lots of opportunities out there. But remember, with world class, you need to have the public speaking, the visibility, the thought leadership, all those other components out there to get to that level that you want to start looking at where do you need to improve and start building up those skill sets. I like Blazen's question. Sounds like to be in cyber, you need to be in a strong mental state. I sort of say that, but with that, I have most people accuse me of being crazy or mentally unstable. So I think the way to say it is you have to, and this is true for any job, you have to love what you do. Because, I mean, you could let things bother you. There could be high stress situations. I mean, the things are going to happen. But the question is, do you let it bother you or not? Right? If you love what you do, yeah. Do I sometimes get clients mad at me? Do clients sometimes get frustrated? Yeah, I mean, it's few and far between as you learn and you get improved, but you don't let it bother you. You focus on the good you're doing, right? So yeah, you do have to have a good perception, but I would joke to work in cyber, you probably got to be a little crazy too, right? So I don't know where we weigh that mental state on that front, but I love the observation. It's been observed that companies are still considering information security as a part of IT. Apparently, companies are absolutely okay with that views. So the way I would answer that is there are still some people that listen to the Bee Gees. There's still some people that wear bare-bottom pants. There's still some people that drive 57 Chevys. Doesn't mean it's correct, right? That doesn't mean it's right or wrong, but it's just old. It's an old way of doing things. And I will tell you this, having cybersecurity work or reporting under IT is old school. That is not the new model. That is not the model that most of your modern companies are using. And it's not the best model. And here's why. What is IT? IT is availability. If you look at almost any CIO is going to basically be comped on uptime availability. So CIOs are paid on availability. What is cybersecurity? Confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So what companies are realizing, and I'm seeing more and more of them do this, is IT is a subset of cyber, not the other way around. So if you put cybersecurity under IT, basically confidentiality and integrity get muted, and all you really get is availability. And companies are starting to realize that with breaches, and we're seeing more and more companies make them equal. But over the next 2 or 3 years, we're actually seeing companies put the CIO under the Ciso because IT is a subset of security. So yes, there are some companies that are doing it. I would love to hear more because I don't know any companies when you're saying are sort of looking at changing to that model. It's an old model that they continue to use. But as they continue to progress, I'm seeing less and less companies utilize that. So Ed has a great question. He says, love the videos. Thank you for watching, right? It's a dual response. I appreciate you and glad you appreciate in return. You mentioned business books that would help to that end. Do you have a list? Yes, real quick. Blue Ocean Strategy, Zeros and Ones, Principles by Ray Dalio. I say his name because there's many principles. The other ones, there's only one. Play Bigger and Lean Startup. So once again, Blue Ocean Strategy, that's about sort of building a new business and finding a unique area. Play Bigger is how to become a category king. Principles are core business principles that are in place. Zeros and ones is basically somebody who invested in all of the startups in Silicon Valley of how to start up a business and lean startup. Now you'll notice all the business books I give you are all focused on building and starting your own business, or really on entrepreneurship. And it's because my evil plan. I believe that every one of you should have the option to run your own business. Why use your brilliant mind to make other people rich when you can make yourself rich? Now, some people don't want to be an entrepreneur, and that's okay. But my philosophy is I see so many of these brilliant technical people, and it happened to me, where you build this amazing system or amazing content for somebody else, and they're taking 95% of the profit and giving you 5%. Why not build your brilliant idea and you take 100%? Right? So that I always believe everyone should have the option to be an entrepreneur. You don't have to be. So that's why my evil plan is I'm going to teach you business, but I'm going to also show you how to do that entrepreneur stuff, sort of behind the scenes. And then it looks like we have one more question as we wrap up. What is the number one thing to progress from security engineer to CISO? In your opinion, is going to management a required step to a CISO? So first one, a number one thing to progress from security engineer to CISO is go from tactical to strategic. Instead of thinking about identifying and finding problems, think about solutions. Instead of thinking about technical ways to solve it, IDS, IPS, false positive, false negative, think about high-level strategies. We need to have asset inventory and manage monitoring of outbound traffic to detect attacks. So business thinking, business language, high-level strategy. And is going into management required? Yes, and the reason is CISO, Chief Information Security Officer, is an executive position, and executive positions have a management component. World-class CISOs have a security engineer team they have to manage, because the only time you're going to be a CISO and not be a manager is you don't have a security team, and then you're spending 90% of your time doing the security engineering and only 10% CISO. So if you want to be a CISO 100% of the time, you need to manage security engineers that basically provide the technical solutions that you design and implement at a strategic level. Hope you enjoyed it. It looks like we got to everyone's question. I will see you next week. Make sure you check out the episode of Life of a CISO we post every Thursday, and then I'll see you 9:30 live. Thank you so much. This was awesome, and I hope you're in a great mood. I'm in a great mood and have an amazing day. I'll see you all soon.